All right, welcome back to Whiskey and Wealth Tech. I'm your host, Alex Sermon, Managing Director of Wealth for First Rate. I'm here in Pune, India with Nayan Mohammed Shedawar. He is the Managing Director of Professional Services and the head of our Data Aggregation as a Service team, otherwise known as DAS. So Nayan, thank you for joining me today and welcome to Whiskey and Wealth Tech.
Thank you, Alex, for having me. I'm sure it's going to be great evening for having a whiskey on a very tech topic.
Absolutely. So speaking of whiskey, since we're filming this here in India, we've got a nice bottle of Amrit Fusion Indian single malt. So it's made locally here in Bengaluru, India. So a little bit ways away from Pune, but still considered local. And so it's a mix of both Indian and Scottish malted barley. And so mostly peated barley from Scotland, but the majority of the grain used here is from the Himalayan, roots. And so it's very local ingredients, but a mix of the Scottish heritage that really helps define the single malt categories. So let's give it a try. So this is really, really nice whiskey, very subtle, smooth, a hint of smoke. So if you're not a big peat head, that's okay. You can probably get through this one.
Yeah.
But what are you getting out of this, man?
And I think now I got to know why it's named as Amrut. And the folks who are following us in India, they will know exactly what Amrut is. It's basically, it makes you complete and basically dissolve everything. So the friends in India definitely will get to know, and nice taste.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And for those of you not based in India, you can get this in the United States. I personally have a bottle of it back home, and it's very, very solid whiskey. So now to go on to the main topic of today, artificial intelligence and machine learning. So this is a huge hot topic in the wealth tech industry. And other industries as well. Everybody wants to be using AI, machine learning. So now could you tell me a little bit about how the wealth tech industry is using AI, how First Rate is using it with our RD engine, and just kind of tell us a little bit about what makes this such a hot topic.
Sure. So since it's quite interesting how wealth management industry has adopted AI. It took a very long time for us to adopt AI. You heard about RegTech, you heard about FinTech, you heard about a lot of other tech, but it took a while for wealth management industry to adopt AI. And the reason is a lot of legacy work, the way it was happening. But since most of the companies are adopted to AI, it's still, they were not able to explore or leverage the potential this particular tool is having. A very good example, when we do a client segmentation, most of the wealth management firm even do client segmentation in a very, very traditional way. It's like they classify someone in ultra high net worth individual or ultra high net worth institutional. But there are a lot of people who gets left out. And I want to use a term called Henry, high earning that are not rich enough yet. Okay. These are the people who never fall under the radar of wealth management firm, but there is going to be really potential client 2 to 3 years down the line if the wealth management firms focus on that. So that's one of the really great case of AI, which understand, reads the data, interpret, and basically just do a client segmentation, not just based on the traditional way, but in a non-traditional way, which will disrupt the wealth advisory business.
Wow. So you're telling me that the insights that a firm can get from utilizing AI just to look at their existing client base, their prospective client base, would completely change how they're doing business in a way that would positively impact what they're doing now and in the future with the kinds of clients they serve and how they best serve.
Yes. So when Department of Labor DOL comes in, it becomes a mandatory for everyone to have a financial advisory, not have any orphan account. Now, giving an advisor services for a bigger firm is a very, very expensive affair. So how they're going to afford or give services to all those small clients with that. But here, that's where we can leverage the power of AI and give advice and service to those guys. And some of the name, just like robo advisor is one of the way, but automatic proposal generation, generation of commentaries, these are various use cases within the AI, which can be leveraged so that the decision making is going to be left with financial advisor, but all the heavy lifting is going to be done by AI. So AI is not here to replace advisor, but AI is here to empower advisors so that they can do a lot better decision making.
Yeah, so you're saying nobody's losing their jobs over this.
Exactly.
They're just, AI is just allowing them to do their jobs better and with more information and without cutting through the noise of things that they really don't need to be paying attention to. So with all that data, I mean, how much data would you say that our already AI engine goes through in a day, and in a way that just an average person might understand?
Sure. So Alex, if you see, when I say data, it can be a two different form. One is structured data and one is unstructured data. For unstructured data is nothing but a plain English with most of the grammars which gets applied over there. And structured data is particularly tabular data. Those are easy to read for humans, but even unstructured data is not very easy to read for humans. The reason is it comes with a lot of big data. And that's where we need to harness the power of AI. So if you see what we are doing, we are processing close to a terabyte worth of data each day, which understand all the numbers, which understand what the insights within those numbers, what those numbers stands for, what they are trying to say, and then build insight out of it. Now, we don't just read the data, we read it, we understand it, and then we interpret it, and then we made a decision making. But decision making just for the data, not for any financial advisor.
Got it. So essentially, you process a lot of data, and how long does it take you to process this?
It takes 3 to 4 hours to process close to a terabyte worth of data.
Wow.
And one thing, Alex, I want to mention over here is one of the really differentiating factor RT is having is that it's a pre-trained. Most of the AI you need to train and test, and that takes most of the time. And it asks for a huge amount of data. In our case, our engine is already pre-trained, it's battle tested from Main Street to Wall Street, every single bank, every single custodian, it already seen. So it's already trained on that. Because of that, the runway for us is going to be really short compared to our competitors, because they don't have all of this labeled data. We already have a labeled data. That's where we do supervised learning. And wherever we don't have a labeled data, we go for unsupervised way of learning information.
Okay, so that iterative process that anybody that uses AI has to go through of learning the data, learning how to not fit the sample, but really be able to actually make real insights on that data. Artie's already done. We've already gone through enough data that really that iterative process is much shorter for new data sets.
Yes, that's right.
And so you can take on any kind of data feed, whether it's a PDF, an Excel, flat file, CSV, you name it. You can take that, and with your pre-trains already, it's just the runway is significantly shorter, and the time in which you can ingest that data is also much faster.
Much faster.
Wow. So what do you see the future of AI being like? Because right now, I mean, it's still very new technology, very disruptive. Do you foresee there being additional disruptive technology in the future that could even supersede AI? Or do you think that this is really kind of what the world's going to look like over the next few years, decade?
Sure, Alex. That's a very interesting question. So if you see the stats which recently Gartner has published, 70% of the AI project haven't went to production at all. It just got built, but never went to production because nobody understands. They are just putting the infrastructure, they are putting the resources to get the algorithms to work, but there is no domain understanding has been put over there. So that's the reason 70% of projects are still in working state. They haven't made it to production. So it means how much we adopt AI in the wealth management industry is not even 1 or 2%.
Wow.
there is a huge potential of using AI. And when I say AI, I don't want to just say a big AI, what all things comes over there. So NLP, natural language processing, it's one of the component which can be leveraged on the ESG. Now the way industry is trending, a lot of investors are focusing on putting their money on the ESG side so that they can help community. Now, in those cases, by looking and reading the annual report, one analyst can do 2 to 3 annual report, not more than that. But using a natural language processing, we can read thousands of annual report in parallel, and we can let exactly financial advisor know these are certain companies who are focusing more on ESG, and then they should worth investing their money. That's one of the use cases. Another use case, which is a natural language generation. Most of the advisors, even though as we speak, are spending hours and hours just writing the report, how the performance went. Because all the performance report comes with just bunch of chart and table, which is really difficult to understand for a layman. But the moment we add a layer of flavor of natural language generation, the whole report gets all the written text, which the way advisor write, we can add the way, the extension of words, the choice of words firm wants to use, we can do that as well using NLG, and which some of our clients are exploring today, and they see the value of leveraging NLP and NLG for their clients.
Wow. So, I mean, that would save, advisors and else.
60 to 70% of time is going to get saved for advisors and their client associates.
Geez, so with 60, 70% more time on their hands, think about the number, the more clients they could service, and the better they could service their existing client base as well. And so, say a firm wants to adopt AI, what are the steps that they need to do to really be able to adopt this process and get rolling with it?
Right. So most of the firms think having the more data is good, but that's not the case. The important thing is you need to have a data it has to be clean. There shouldn't be any noise, and it needs to be validated. And last but not least, it needs to be in a form where machine can read. These are the very 4 important steps everyone needs to follow. Second, it has to be a data-driven approach within the organization. It cannot be a certain set of group of data scientists who are sitting and try to build something AI. That's not going to work. It has to be a data-driven organization structure. And that's the thing which we are doing at First Rate. We understand the signal behind the data. And we apply a data-driven cycle, which is we apply all the domain expertise on that data. And that's the reason we are more successful compared to some of the firms who are just focusing on bunch of algorithm, but not on the business.
Okay, interesting. So to, kind of sum it up here, firms be able to adopt AI, they need to be data driven. They need to have clean data, whether it's in a PDF or other format. It still has to be readable, and the amount of data doesn't matter. You can't just throw a bunch of data at an AI machine and expect to get magic out of it. But your data has to be validated. It has to be good data, because you put something bad in, you're going to get something bad back.
So look at this way, Alex. Junk in and junk out. So whatever I'm going to train, that's how I'm going to get it back. So a good example, a cranky baby, if you keep on cranking, if we give a candy, it stop. But next time, immediately that kid get to know, if I cry, then only I'm going to get candy. So that's how even machine understand. If you give them a junk, next time it's going to expect junk. If you give them a clean data, it's not going to give you the right output. And that's the reason giving a clean data, a trained data to machine is really important to get the right output.
Wow, that's a great analogy. I haven't heard that one before. Excellent. So just to kind of, summarize a few key points of what we've learned here today about artificial intelligence and machine learning is, one, we believe it truly is the future, and that if you're data driven and you want to save yourself both some time, some money, and some headache, and be able to really, attack the future, AI is the way to go.
Yes.
And, it'll allow you to, cut down the number of hours that you're spent doing manual processes. It'll allow you to get insights such as the Henrys, the high net worth individuals that are not yet rich.
Yeah.
Be able to service those clients that may be falling through the cracks for these firms right now. And so it sounds like AI is really promising, utilizing a firm like First Rate that's has AI in production. We're not one of those 70% that still hasn't left the back room yet. We're way ahead of the curve in regards to how we help firms service their clients. And so being in the wealth tech industry with only 1 to 2% actually utilizing AI, if your firm adopts Artie or any other AI engine, you're going to be way ahead of the competition and being able to add value to what you're doing for your customers and for your stakeholders. Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me, Nayan. It was a wonderful conversation. We can finish off this whiskey, and thank you everybody for joining and listening in.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Thank you all.